What you doing, Daily Dreamers? You got Mathras back. This time, not really a showdown live. I was very excited. I thought I'd be able to get the chance to do a showdown live today, but it seems like Nintendo actually kept things pretty under wraps until the final moments. So Showdown doesn't actually have access to all the new stuff yet, so they're still implementing it. So I don't get access to play around with any of that stuff yet, which is very sad. But what we do have is some information. For example, they revealed the new moves, the new move tutor moves that are coming out. I mean, we already got a list of these names, but now we have what their base power is, what their power points are, what the descriptions are, and stuff like that, as you can see on the screen right now. I guess I should say shout out to anybody who doesn't want this spoiled for them. If you want to play the actual DLC without knowing any of this stuff, I apologize, but now's your chance to get out. But leave a like on your way out. So I put together, so I have this list that I got from Smogon. I'll put a link to it down below. But I also then put together kind of some ideas and thoughts that I have of Pokemon that might actually be able to utilize these moves very well. So first here we got Terrain Pulse, which I think everybody pretty much predicted this. It's a normal type move, but it changes to a terrain. It's basically a Weather Ball, but for terrain, in my opinion. So put together a list of Pokemon that I think could kind of use it well, and would also reasonably get the move, I think. It's not confirmed which Pokemon get any of these moves yet, so don't take this as fact. This is just kind of my thoughts. I think Clefable would be a pretty good user of this, and I think it's pretty reasonable that it would get access to it. Along with like Hatterene and Mew, I think these are three of the Pokemon that I think would, if they did get access to it, which I think is pretty likely, I think they would be able to use it pretty well. And then I also have Pokemon that are coming into the game with the new DLC. Porygon, I think, would be a great user of this. With it already being, stab normal type move, I think it's pretty likely that it'll get this move. And then to be able to have a move that turns into the typing depending on the terrain, I think would be very, very cool. I think Magnezone is also, I think this one's a little bit more of a stretch, but I think it could be really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to kind of go through them a little bit quickly. Next is Burning Jealousy. I'm not too particularly excited about this move. 70 base power, only 5 power points. Definitely seems like more of a VGC geared move, which is, a little upsetting, but I think there is a way that it could be kind of cool, and that's if a certain few Pokemon actually get access to it. Which is why I thought it would be cool if Pokemon, I think that has a little bit more flavor than actual, you don't have to be a fire type. I think it's a little bit more flavorful this way. I think Grimmsnarl, I think Grimmsnarl has a tendency to be jealous sometimes, which is what I also thought with Primarina. And I think these Pokemon getting a 70 base power fire move would be really, really cool. And it does have some, defensive capabilities, utilities as well. Gardevoir already has Mystical Fire, but I still think it could be cool. And then, of course, I think Ninetales is definitely going to get it. This seems like most likely suspect to me. And then probably one of the most interesting moves that has been introduced is Flip Turn. 60 base power water move that gets momentum. It's basically a U-turn, but water type. But what's particularly interesting to me, I think there's a lot of interesting Pokemon that could get access to this move. But it does get a Technician boost, which I think is really cool. So here's a small part of the list of Pokemon that I think could get this move and use it well. Primarina would make Choice Specs sets really cool, being able to get that momentum switch on the forced switches. I think Politoed could be a lot better at setting up the rain with Flip Turn. Kingdra also like a Choice Specs set. I think Banded Sharpedo could actually be really dope with Flip Turn, like Flip Turn, Close Combat, Crunch, and Liquidation. Like, what else do you need? Basically just, Choice Specs, Choice Banded sets are what I'm thinking of. As you can see, Dragalge and Cloudster as well. But other things I can think of, Grapplocked, which actually gets access. What am I saying? Grapplocked, which does actually get the ability Technician. could make this a really, really cool, much better Pokemon. Could really bring it up a lot because it has solid attack, and if you slap a choice band on that, slap a flip turn on there, give it like circle throw, I don't know. It gets Drain Punch, it gets Sucker Punch. I don't know, I think it could be an interesting thing to add to this Pokemon's arsenal. So next was Rising Voltage, which also doesn't sound that exciting to me. I was really hoping this would be kind of a physical move, because I think that's something that electric types in general are missing, is electric moves. But that being said, there's definitely some Pokemon that could use this in interesting ways. Rotom, definitely, the whole Rotom line really. Calm Mind Zeraora could be really good, but I think the combination of Surge Surfer with this move is going to be extra spicy, because if you didn't know, Rising Voltage doubles in power when electric terrain is active, which, you know, this Pokemon having a, what is it, 70, so it would be 140 base power stab, electric terrain boosted move, while also having double speed. I think that could make this thing really scary under terrain. I think it's reasonable that Magnezone could get it as well, which would, you know, imagine like a choice spec set. Hitting that, I mean, think about how hard that hits. Luxray, of course, I was hoping this would be a nice physical move for Luxray, but it doesn't have the worst special attack stat, so that's there. The Dene is also there. And then the other thing I was thinking is, I mean, obviously the only electric terrain setter right now, Pincurchin, which does, you know, lessen this viability to an extent, because you either run this with Electric Surge, which isn't the most viable thing, or you run something with the move Electric Terrain, which you don't always want to do. But I think this could be a solid user of the move itself, which, you know, could be kind of cool. And now I gotta scroll. So yeah, Grassy Glide, that one already got a little bit revealed. Obviously Rillaboom, pretty good user of that. Other things that I think could be useful, I don't think Venusaur would get it, but it'd definitely be good. Celebi, Serena, definitely. Shiftry could be really cool, and Lurantis. I think giving Lurantis a priority move to abuse with its already slow speed, I think would be really cool. But of course it does rely on the terrain as well, being giving it that priority boost. So, you know, it's situational for sure. Triple Axle, super interesting move. Consecutive 3-kick attack that becomes more powerful with each successful hit, and I think I remember hearing that it goes up by 10 base power with each consecutive hit, so it would be like 20, 30, 40, which, you know, the quick math becomes like 90 base power. Combine that with like a Technician boost, and you're looking at something a little bit deadly. So, I think some of these are definitely long shots. I think Bisharp could be really interesting because I mean, it's based on ice skating, obviously, and, you know, blades. And Bisharp definitely has access to that. Weavile would definitely be a good user of this move. And then I have Hitmonlee and Hitmontop, obviously the kick-centered Pokemon, and then Hitmontop, which already has triple kick. I think it's pretty reasonable that this thing could get triple axle as well. And it does have Technician, which would make it a really strong move. Of course, there's not really that many... there's no ice types that get Technician, so there's not a lot of ice type Pokemon that I think would get this move, but the other one I think is cool. Cinderace definitely has a lot of kick-centric moves, which, I mean, with Libero turning it into an ice type, probably not the best thing in the world, but I think it could use this move to some extent fairly well. Having ice coverage is always good. And then I just had Gallade here as well. I don't know if this is the most plausible thing, but it does have a lot of blade moves, so it could be there. It could be there. And then coaching, I'm not going to talk too much about this move. It's basically just a VGC move. Boost your allies' stats. You know, not too much to say about that in singles. Then I do have Corrosive Gas, which is basically like a knockoff that doesn't actually do damage. Like, all it does is just get rid of the item, which I think is pretty interesting. I think there's a few Pokemon that are probably guaranteed to get this thing, which is, I think, are Weezing and Salazzle. Those are probably the two Pokemon that I think, if any two Pokemon were going to get this move, it's definitely these two. But the other ones I thought of, like, imagine if Toxapex get this move, like, I don't give this Pokemon anything. Like, this Pokemon has everything it needs. Don't give it anything more. Toxtricity could be really interesting, and then I thought Tentacruel would be another interesting one. Next, do I have to scroll further now? Oh yes, can you guys actually see that? Scorching Sands. Oh, I can't scroll all the way down, but this is probably one of the better moves that's been introduced. It's basically like a ground type Scald move, 70 base power, special move with 10 power points. I think this is definitely gonna be like the most used one. I mean, it definitely depends on who gets it, but anyone that gets it is gonna be completely blessed by getting this move. I think Hippowdon, probably one of the top potential users. I mean, this thing is already so good, and giving it basically its own stab Scald is going to be pretty crazy for this Pokemon. Imagine you can just run like specially defensive, rely on your natural defensive bulk, and then, you know, the burns from Scorching Sands to help you out as well. I've heard rumor about Cinderace getting this move, which could be really cool, giving it a nice powerful, well, not that powerful, obviously it doesn't have that strong base special attack, but the move itself is powerful. Being able to burn, and, you know, it's not the weakest base power. Then I have Flygon here, which I think could make special Flygon into a much more dangerous thing. I think Earth Power is definitely good, but that ability to burn is really cool, and I think it also makes defensive Flygons, like with Defog, Roost, Scorching Sands, and then you could even run like U-Turn in the last slot or something. I think it could be pretty solid. Diggersby, I don't know. Dracozolt and Dracovish I think could be interesting use of this, just because of the flavor of them getting Sand Rush. I don't know if that's actually going to happen in the DLC, but I think it could be pretty cool. I think it could be pretty cool. Colossal, I think, is another interesting potential user of this, being, you know, rock and fire type. It's not that far away to think that it could get like a scorching ground move, and I think it could be a really useful move for it. I don't think it'll really boost it out of the current tier it's in, which is RU, but it could be a really cool move, make it a little bit more defensive. Yeah, so let's see, next, scroll back up, and I gotta zoom out and then zoom in on this side for Dual Wing Beat, which I think is an interesting one. I don't really see a lot of opportunities for other Pokemon to get this move. Like, I mean, you gotta have wings, that's the thing. So I put together a small list here. Oh, can you guys not see? Hold on. Just move that over a little bit. So 40 base power, hits twice in a row, 90 accuracy, which, you know, isn't great, but could be a potentially strong flying type move, maybe good coverage for certain Pokemon. But I think Hawlucha, I got Flygon here, Braviary, Decidueye, Cramorant, I think are all potential users. They have wings, and I don't think it would be the best for them because most of them do get solid flying type moves already. I think Flygon gets Aerial Ace, and Dual Wing Beat would be a slightly more powerful Aerial Ace, so it's definitely an option. But I think probably one of the most interesting potential users of this is Scizor, of course, with its access to Technician, which would make this into a super strong flying type move. It would make it so each hit would be a 70 base power, and it hits twice. I think that's the math, but I might be incorrect on that. But it would be a very strong double hit flying type move, which would be pretty crazy for Scizor. And it has wings, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. And that goes for Scyther as well, getting Technician, and it would also get Stab on the flying move too, which I think is pretty cool. Oh damn! I forgot to do this. So yeah, Hawlucha, Flygon, Braviary, Decidueye, Cramorant, Scizor. These are probably some of the top users, I think, of this move. Next is Expanding Force. Not that exciting. I mean, the terrain boost is kind of cool. I don't know the exact math on how much it boosts, but, you know, I'll go over a few things here. I don't think there's too much to say about this move. It just seems pretty basic to me. You know, Hatterene, Jirachi, Mew, Alakazam, they get stab on it. It could be stronger than just running regular Psychic, but again, you need to run like Indeedee to get the boost. Actually, Indeedee probably would be one of the better users of this, being able to set it up itself. So yeah, I should have put that thing on the list. I'll do it right now. Indeedee. Probably one of the best users of this, if it gets access to it, which could be questionable considering the Game Freak probably wouldn't want to make it that strong. Anyway, Skitter Smack. 70 base power, physical bug move. Lowers the special attack stat. Oops. I just clicked off. Skitter Smack. I don't know. There's not. I don't see a lot of opportunity for this move to be very useful. But I think Mimikyu, it seems like it could be kind of flavorful for it to get this move. Other Pokemon like Elisopod, Scizor, Scolipede, you know, I think it could be possible. So there's that. Next is Meteor Beam, which is super interesting, super strong, special rock move. Of course, it's not accurate because no rock moves can be accurate. But it's interesting that it's a 2-turn move and it boosts the special attack stat. So something like a Power Herb could be potentially really cool with this. I think that's probably the only way it could really be run. And there's definitely a few interesting. There's not a lot of specially offensive rock types that I think could make use of this. But things like Magearna, Lucario, while they're not rock types themselves, they do get access to similar moves, I think. Does this thing? I don't think it gets like Meteor Mash, but I think it wouldn't be too far fetched for these two to actually get access to this move. And then I bring Colossal back as well. I think it could be one of the best stab users of the move. Just run a Power Herb on this thing. It doesn't have the best special attack, but it's not the worst either, and with the strong base power of the move, it could make up for that. And then I think Duraludon is another potentially strong user of this move, which is already strong base special attack. Obviously wouldn't get stabbed, but you know, it already has access to things like Steel Beam, which are similar, and can be run on it fairly successfully. It's definitely going to be a super heat move. There's no doubt in that. Next up, Poltergeist. They finally made a strong physical ghost type attack, but it only works if the target has an item. So that's pretty interesting. And it is only 90% accurate, so there is that little drawback. But I think this could make a few Pokemon super useful for the first time. I mean, obviously there's Aegislash, Mimikyu, which are already good Pokemon, but could be even better with this move. And then there's the Pokemon that I'm a little more excited about, which is Dhelmise, Golurk, and Dusknoir, which are all Pokemon that don't really have a reliable, strong, physical stab ghost type move, being like Shadow Claw being like one of the best, or Shadow Sneak in the case of Dusknoir. But with this strong 110 base power this move is, I think it could make these into really interesting, really scary Pokemon. Obviously, you know, there's the drawback of needing to have an item, but I think most Pokemon are going to want to run an item. So, yeah, I think it could make these things really cool. And also, I think Alola Marowak could be a good user of this, although it does already have access to Shadow Bone, which is pretty reliable, so they might not give it that move. Scale Shot, a 2 to 5 time hitting dragon move, physical, 25 base power. This is an interesting one. I mean, there's obviously the Skill Link Pokemon come to mind, but it doesn't seem the most, I guess, you know, Cloyster could get access to this. I don't think it would really care for it that well. And I don't see something like Cinccino getting access to it, or maybe like Ambipom. I don't think Ambipom's in the Isle of Armor, but maybe in the future. But I don't think it would be too excited to use that move anyway. So I'm just thinking, like, obviously Komodo with the scales, Dragapult, Flygon, Turtonator, you know, dragon type Pokemon that might probably would get access to it but wouldn't even use it. And the one potentially long reach one that I think could get it is Ice Scales Frostmoth. I mean, it's a Scale Shot. I don't think it would really have anything to do with ever running that move, but it could get it, and I think it could be kind of funny. So there's that. Lash Out. This one, 75 base power. It doubles in power if the user's stats were lowered during the turn. So if like you switch in and intimidate user on it or something. I think there's a lot of dark type moves that I think get pretty wide distribution, you know, like knockoff, stuff like that. But I think there's a few very interesting users potentially of this move. And that first one I think of that comes to my mind is Bisharp, because it gets the ability Defiant as well. So imagine like switching in an Intimidate Pokemon on a Bisharp that's going for Lash Out. Like the Defiant gets activated and then it hits with a double power move. I think Defiant users are definitely going to be the premier users of these moves, and I think it could be really cool. And the other Defiant user, which doesn't typically run Defiant but could start doing it with this move, is Obstagoon. And then there's other ones like, you know, Grimmsnarl, Mandibuzz, Tyranitar, and Incineroar that might get access to this move, probably get access to this move, but might just not be able to use it as well as like Knockoff, or, you know, Crunch in case of Tyranitar, or like Sucker Punch in case of, or Darkest Lariat in case of Grimmsnarl. So it's interesting, but probably going to be a little bit niche. And then Steel Roller, 130 base power physical steel move, but only works on terrain and destroys the terrain. So definitely not the most useful without the Tapu Pokemon around, but there's definitely a few Pokemon that might be able to use this in certain situations. Like I think grassy terrain is definitely going to become more viable. It already is becoming more viable with Rillaboom, but I think will only continue to become more viable. So obviously I think it's steel Pokemon that are going to primarily use this move. So I got Aegislash, Excadrill, Ferrothorn, maybe things like Escavalier in the lower tiers. But other Pokemon I think could get it, maybe Tyranitar seems pretty reasonable. Mamoswine also seems like a potential. So probably not the most useful on like the ladder, unless you really do have a problem with terrain. But maybe in like a draft league, that's where I think this might be useful if your opponent has a terrain setter that you really want to handle or something. I don't know, not the most useful thing in my mind. And then I think there's one left, Misty Explosion. If you guys, can you see that? It is 100 base power. It's basically a fairy type explosion, which, you know, doesn't sound that crazy. But I think it does get a boost on the Misty terrain. Not sure exactly what that boost is, but it definitely gets a boost. So I don't know. I don't think it's the most useful move, but I think a few interesting Pokemon could get access to it. Slurpuff, obviously with the stab, could be really interesting. Maybe set a Belly Drum. Belly Drum, Custap Berry. Is Custap Berry actually allowed yet? Okay, no. Maybe in the future. But Custap Berry, Belly Drum, Slurpuff, and then with the Misty Explosion. Wait, is it even physical? Oh, no, it is special, unfortunately. But could still be really strong. So Belly Drum obviously doesn't help. But anyway, Silvally Fairy could be a good move. I think the Silvallis actually do get Explosion, so I don't think it's too far-fetched to think they could also get Misty Explosion. Alcremie is another potential user of this. It does have the strong base special attack to try to back it up as well. And then I think Chansey, Miltank, and Licky Licky, the like bulky pink normal type Pokemon that I think could potentially use this move. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the most frequently run, you know, maybe like a Specs set or something. I don't know. Could be interesting, but I don't see it being run too often. Is there anything that sets Misty Terrain currently in the Gen 8 meta? Oh, Misty Surge. Misty Surge, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so maybe Weezing actually could be a very good user of this with its Misty Surge ability. But I think it's tough because with Weezing you do want to run Levitate some of the time. But it could be an interesting little heat set, maybe run Choice Specs Weezing with Misty Surge and come in, or maybe even like Choice Scarf and just kind of catch something off guard. But I think Weezing is a lot more reliable with its normal defensive set, so I don't think it's the most viable move option, but hopefully I can get some Showdown lives to try to show off these moves and the new Pokemon that are coming out in the near future. Maybe by the time that I'm uploading this, or maybe even as I'm recording this, that Showdown has been updated. So hope to see you guys soon in some future videos. But until then, see you guys in the next one. What's your favorite one what's your favorite new move? Leave a comment down below. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out. Keep dreaming. Goodbye.